I'm assuming that you all know our guest speaker tonight, Rainey Laird, who is the daughter of Duncan Lincicum. She's going to speak about her father tonight, Duncan Lincicum. There's a display of pictures that her father did, and she'll tell you all about it.
Yes. First of all, I was very pleased to be invited to speak to you. My father was intently wrapped up in Lake County and the history of Lake County. And so I kind of wondered about how I do it or what I did. But I've been able to go through a lot of documentation, and I've been very happy with the way it all came together, and even things I've forgotten. So, I'm pretty informal. If you want to ask a question here and there, and I am going to throw out little blurbs that don't necessarily go with the chronicle situation of his life, but that was Dad. He was just kind of whimsy once in a while. Yeah, he had a fun side. Do you mind if I sit down?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Fine. I think a lot of you looking around the room knew my dad. And some of you may have heard of it. But anyway, this is his story. Duncan Lincicum was born on June 9th, 1911. That was also his mother's birthday. He was born in Los Angeles and then moved to Texas. The family moved to Lakeview when he was 4 years old. Duncan Leon Lincicum was his father, who lived in Los Angeles. His mother, Mary Campbell Lincicum Strickland, was born in Sunderland, England. Her father was a printer and a typesetter. Mary came to America with 8 other family members. Mary moved to Lakeview in 1915. She had 3 children, Bill, Jesse, and Duncan. And Jesse was a girl. My Jesse's boy, but I mean, family names, you just take the eye out. Anyway, Duncan's birth certificate indicated his true given name to be Addison Duncan Lincicum. His name was officially changed in January of 1945 and sworn to the correction by the state of Oregon by his mother and his uncle George. Since then, he was officially known as Duncan Campbell Williamson Lincicum. And one thing he had said was that from the train depot down here, when he was 5 years old, he remembers seeing Goose Lake. It was close. Anyway, he had many facets, and he was truly a creative and talented man. His background in religion was he was raised in the Presbyterian Church in Lakeview, whose group of founding ladies group included Mary Strickland, his mother, and her mother, Harriet Campbell. The church started the first high school in Lakeview. Dad worked tirelessly on the old building, and my mother made the draperies for behind the choir, and he was also on the building committee for the new structure and worked tirelessly on that. It was just ingrained in him to have a strong faith. Anyway, and then this is a little something he always said, is don't be scared of color. And rightfully so, we had a circus tent ceiling in our living room. About 10 inches, I think, would have been the width of each stripe, kind of a pale mauve pink, and then a darker mauve pink scallops on the side. And my mother came home from Portland, where she was raised, visiting her parents, and she walked in and she said, "Hey, I have a surprise for you." And she said, "I got a new hairdo." And we said, "We have a surprise for you too, Mom." But you came too early, and the elephants and giraffes and the animals did not get on the walls. The walls were blue, and Dad would have gotten those animals on had he had time. And we would have lived in a circus tent. I mean, that's just kind of the fun way he liked to do things. He had a kind of a, fun side. His marriage was to Helen Udell DeYoung in Portland on February 25th, 1940. There were 2 children, Terry Diane and Lorraine Jean. And then there were 2 grandchildren, Leslie Lee and Jessie Ed. He joined the Army when World War II started. He wanted to keep America safe for his family and everyone. He was very patriotic. It meant a lot for him to go do his duty. And he served overseas in Luzon, Philippines, and he was a career artist documenting the war by drawings and paintings. And he won a Red Cross picture contest, I guess, of the war or whatever, and his pictures were hung in the Red Cross building in Washington, D.C. He was very proud of his English roots as his heritage, and he traced the family tree back to Gideon Lincicum of the Revolutionary War. He wanted Terry and I to both be able to be members of the DAR. He thought that was very important. And he also then, we did belong to the local chapter in the national organization. I demitted after some years because I just couldn't keep up living out in Plush and doing all the other things I was doing right then. His career started when he was very young. He quit school about in the junior high age range. His sister, Jessie, wanted to go to the University of Oregon, take music, and be educated. He never got that chance. He always wanted to be educated. He was self-taught. So he quit school and helped support the family and looked forward to his sister getting her degree in music, coming back, and the idea was she would give music lessons in Lakeview and help with the family. But that didn't happen, so he helped support his mother as her only income was from sewing and embroidery work and custom projects that she would sew for friends. Dad washed dishes at the Lakeview Hotel coffee shop at the age of 15. After his 16th birthday, he started an apprenticeship in the painting trade under Clem Adamson and worked for him for about 20 years intermittently. He also worked for 2 other painting contractors in Lakeview, Eben Tatro and Harry Cool. He had many other jobs. He was a chauffeur, he worked at the mills, he was a janitor for the Lakeview school system. He taught drawing at the public schools, and I would take it that that was the Lakeview schools. And then he always wanted to achieve education besides being self-taught. So he attended the U of O and took interior decorating classes and architectural design and history classes. He loved poetry and he could memorize, he could just recite poetry. He always liked Bobby Burns the best, I think. Anyway, he worked in Pasadena also in California. as he was studying figure drawing and oil painting. He then went to Alaska in January of 1936. In 1940, he painted the Alger Theater. And that's kind of how my mother got down here. My grandfather was an architect in Portland. He built the Marius and the Alger. And also many of the churches in the communities around. Interior decorating, he did sign painting, exterior building painting, and Helen's business, drapery business that coordinated with his interior design that supported our family. Trucks, buildings, glass doors on which he did gold leaf, all around Lakeview at one time, mostly for the creative designs of signs he made, especially for each firm. And he tried to customize those so it would be pleasing for each. I just have a few Pounce patterns. A Pounce pattern is where you can see light through the little holes. I don't know if you can see any of that. But then you put chalk on these little holes and it makes a line of chalk. Then he would take the oil paintbrush and just cut into it. He had a very steady hand. And he would put this on sides of trucks, signs, whatever he wanted. He did tons of, you could go up and down the street. This was not a Pounce pattern, but this was an example of, he would always study and work in design. And this was one of his, and he put his stamp on it, DC Lincicum, artwork and painting. And then he had a little building of the shop he had made into a stamp. And this is a special one. I have a friend, and she gets this. Whoops. It was the Pounce pattern used for, we called him Bill Decker. And this is Janice's dad. That's yours today? Wow. Lord knows how old that is. We're all getting there. Anyway. So let's see, where was I? Oh. He was a true artist who created designs and painted. Especially near and dear to his heart were the ceilings, murals, and walls of the Catholic churches around, like in Medford, Klamath, and the local one, which they proceeded to.
Didn't he do the
paint.
Methodist church?
Pardon?
Didn't he do the Methodist church ceiling?
I probably.
That seemed to me like he told Jackie he put his glasses on upside down when he was doing it, you know, for the
Yeah. And they were beautiful celestial scenes. He also painted the old courthouse building way up on scaffolding, and he didn't seem to mind working at the various heights because he was a scaffold builder and he'd climb clear up. So anyway, and then eventually he, when we were younger, across the street on 9th Street, he built a shop, as we called it. And that's where he could paint truck signs, put the trucks inside so they didn't freeze and this, that, or get dust on it, and paint was fresh. He stored paints and fabric samples, as well as there was a space for making the draperies. In the shop, he also had an area for his museum. He collected barbed wire samples, arrowheads, purple glass, old tools, square nails, anything. And he just loved history and history of Lake County. He had dreams of studying art in Italy for a year, and that nearly came true. It was when I was going to be the year of my 5th grade. And the entire family had passport pictures taken, and we filled out all the passport documents for international travel. And then it didn't come to fruition, but he had dreams. He wanted to be there with the Italian, like with Michelangelo. I mean, everyone. He just thought they were his friends. Anyway, he had many hobbies and interests. He liked going to the desert for arrowhead hunting, flying in small airplanes, deer hunting, fishing, and making toys for children. Gave him a great deal of joy. He made toys for Terry and I. We had like a little piano with real little painted keys, and it was on wheels, and you turned it around and it was a bookcase in the back. I mean, functional plus fun. Anyway, and then there's pictures in here. One that was in the Lake County Examiner, and then one that was just a photograph of the playhouse he made for Terry and I. It had a fire pole in it. You could go up on the balcony and slide down. And I mean, it was really fun. And we also had the Stagecoach, which held passengers, and there were horses out front. And I mean, he made a regular stagecoach and wheels on it and everything. Well, his Uncle John walked a great long distance to take a candy bar to Dad one time when he was younger. And it really impressed him. He felt that was a very unselfish act done to make him happy. That kindness was never forgotten. And every year for a long time, when we were small children, in Lakeview, they had a Christmas parade that came down the canyon down Center Street. And whether the panels were on a pickup or the fire truck or what, but he made the sleigh panels and the front, and then Santa sat up there, and each child received a small brown bag of goodies, everybody along the route. And he said, well, that's for the kids, He's got to do that for the kids.
Didn't the Elks do that?
Yes, I believe that Elks sponsored
the
that.
Elks Christmas.
And, it was a fun holiday thing. Started off the season. Anyway, let's see. Okay. Anyway, he said it was worthwhile for the children. His love of Lake County history and also the DAR connection led him to help Lulu and Dolph Schmink with their in-home museum. Then Jenny Carroll then turned into the curator after her teaching career retirement. He made many of the displays cases in the basement and helped arranging the collections and did painting and all in the house. He worked for many families in the county and made friends whom some of them would just give him free rein, and he loved it because there was his creativity. And such as this picture here. I'll pass it around. Some years ago, I was very disappointed when I went to see the new owners of Merrill Lynch's house. It had sold, and I had never gone to Mary or Jim or, while anybody was in there. But once it sold, I thought, oh my goodness, I better get there, because something will happen to the painting. And I'd always heard of this painting of Jesus and the children. who he said, "Mary, can I paint something on one of the bedroom walls?" And she said, "Sure, Doug. It's a done deal, whatever you want." And this is what he put on it. Of course, here it has some water stains and everything. Well, when I went, the fellow who then owned the house said, "Oh, we painted it out." And my heart just sunk. And then he said, "We took a picture of it before we painted it, you know." And he said, "I will print you off a copy and send it to you. Otherwise, that little bit would have been gone." As slowly through the years, you know, the signs, you know, things change, you know. And, but he did, this was one of the few things I think from his childhood. Evidently his mother must have done this. This was his bit. And then he did watercolor for Cook of the old house at Blue Joint. And it's slowly going by the wayside, but we lived down there when we were first married and raising the kids and stuff. That's how we got the work done. I had running water by a hose. Then these other pictures are from the collection at the hospital that he had very quickly done, probably 15 or 18 of these historical buildings and things he remembered. And they were quick, they weren't done with a great deal of perspective of anything. Just in his mind's eye, he wanted to, and he probably took these off of photographs, you know, too. But he wanted to document the history of Lakeview. And so then after he passed, he had an art show in his memory. And after that art show, the family decided that the best place where people could actually enjoy relating to older things would be to have them in the nursing home. So they were donated to the long-term facility in Lakeview. So.
And I might add, they all hang there, thanks to Melinda Utley, who let me borrow 4 of those for this evening, but they're great. And I think the residents down there, even though some of them are no longer Lakeview residents for a long time, or some of their memories have gone, of course, with dementia, whatever. But still, there's something about those pictures. I see them looking at them and they relate to them.
Did he do the Chewbacca Hotel in Paisley?
I don't think he did.
Yeah, I remember seeing a painting of it or something when I first moved here, but I don't know.
I'm not sure, maybe that was in the collection.
I know
I
remember seeing it when we first moved down here, but somebody had a painting of it.
Mm-hmm. Let's see,
Pardon me?
Where are they?
They're hanging in the entryway. As you come in the main entryway, they're hanging on the wall, and then they continue on down the wall there in front of the nurse's station.
no, it's not in this collection. But I'm sure he probably painted it at one
I
time.
imagine he did.
But it's not here. There were a stack of photos and I cut them all down so I could get them all on a sheet. But this is the entire collection. And there's a lot of this other documentation over here if anybody wants to look at, like when he was that was really
I don't remember what he looked like, I just remember the name. I don't remember him so well.
This is a picture of him painting and he was he also decided to mount get up on the top of the water buffalo there, I think it was. I mean, just have fun.
Rainey,
Yes.
the clock that's in the Alger Theater, what is the history of that? I can't help but every time I go in there, then think of your father when I look at the
It
clock.
has been there forever. I have talked to Mr. Samuels if that would be available. And he said he wasn't ready to dismantle the theater yet. And I asked him if he would give me first right of refusal if they decide to do something. But that has been there ever since I was little.
All my life, I can remember seeing the Duncan Lincicum clock.
Anyway, there, let's see, I think this is another picture of him with his collections, and then this is where they compared him to Michelangelo. Scaffolding. And like I say, there's lots of stuff here, I don't know what anybody's interested in, but this was,
Let my glasses.
this was another one of him climbing on his scaffolding. Does anybody have any questions or comments or anything?
You favored him so.
Pardon?
You favored him so.
So Rainey, was any of that, I know your sister Terry had artistic ability because I remember the buckles that she
Oh, yes.
designed. And then, how about you? Have you carried any of that tradition on?
Well, I haven't carried that on artistically. I did do some pen and inks, and I liked the pen and ink medium very well. But I didn't really sway into the art because Terry was doing it. And she just was kind of, I guess, carrying on that. I went more to crafts like knitting, sewing, quilting, that sort of thing. But it's not that I didn't have an eye for it. I just wasn't there with it. She enjoyed it. She went to school to be an art teacher. She was an art teacher. Then she went into graphic arts.
Okay. I remember your father taking me over to his workshop, and he had a skull of a mountain lion. He was wanting to paint one, and he wanted to see kind of how the bone form and everything was. He was such a detailed person. Trying to get everything exactly as it should be.
Exactly as it should be.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, he had filing cabinet drawers full of just horses. The muscles, the head reaction, the hair, the feet, the gait, the whatever of horses. Very, very, very much a studier of each and everything. And like I say, then on one of these, I can't remember where it is, he wrote down how the sign would be perceived by the distance, the color, the wind, the cloudiness. I mean, when he studied something, he studied it precisely. And they liked to travel. They went to Hawaii and they went to Spain, and he loved that sort of thing. So
Never went to Italy.
we didn't get to Italy. I have a feeling that maybe working it out for 4 people was a bit much. You know, he should have just gone by himself. You know, but in that day and age, who knows?
Were you raised in that house on Ninth Street?
The shop was right across.
Yeah, right across the street.
I always remember that whenever I go up Ninth Street, your mother seemed to be always at the kitchen sink. I always see her.
That's where she spent a lot of time when after she did the drapery business and everything, then she, of course, she worked at the various box mills and mills as a secretary. Then they started the drapery business, that way she could be home with us kids. And she'd be right across the street. And then after that, she went to work for Bob Utley and went back to the insurance that she had learned in Portland under her uncle. So she was office manager for Bob for a long time.
So Rainey, did the circus tent remain in your living room? How long?
For quite a while, didn't it, Janice? Didn't we have that for quite a while before it got taken out? Oh,
Did
yeah.
it get replaced?
Yeah, we just had, you know, it would have been more fun with the animals, but hey, you know, you can only do so much in a day.
A lot of sense of humor also.
Oh, yes.
You know, too.
Yeah, she's,
Instead of calling a dead thing.
the stripes can stay, there will be no animals. The stripes stay.
Oh,
And they just were kind of part of it, you didn't notice them after a while, that was just kind of, you know, like, doesn't everybody have a stripe ceiling? Anyway, when he was working for Merrill Lynch also, another fun story is she had this beautiful crystal bowl. I mean, he said it was a beauty. And she said, I can't always have it out. I don't know if it's going to get broken. What shall I do, Dunk? And he said, this nice entryway into the house. There it was. It was the ceiling fixture for the entrance light in the hallway.
Wow.
And he would tell me stories like that because he kind of got to do his thing. And he enjoyed that.
So did the ceiling fixture, the light fixture remain in the house? Do you know?
I have no idea, because when I went there and he told me they painted out the wall, my heart sunk and I didn't look at the ceiling. You know, I should have. But anyway.
I think he painted the boardwalk around here, too, in the living room, as I recall. In Mary's house.
Oh, yes. Oh, and in Dorothy Osterman's kitchen, there, he wallpapered also. He wallpapered it with the green leaf floral and the little yellow flowers, I think it was. And she had that fold-down ironing board like we all had back then. And it kind of stuck out like a, you know, sore thumb. So he hand-painted the back of that ironing board in the same pattern as the wallpaper.
Wow.
You would walk in and just see wallpaper.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah. He had fun doing stuff like that. So, but I think he just kind of like painted Lakeview. You know, it was his world. And he said, I enjoy painting so much because I'm making things more beautiful and people will be happy. You know.
It'll make a lot of people happy.
Oh, I think so.
Rainey, one time years ago, he called me up and he wanted to paint for me. So I could not afford to hire anybody to paint in my house, let alone him. Because he was kind of the painter in town, the interior decorator. And he wanted so badly to paint for me because then it would be 3 generations that he would paint it for.
Oh.
Wow.
And it was interesting, I was visiting Laura Flint the other day.
Oh,
And you were talking about his love of color, and I know that he did a lot of work for her. And her kitchen is the brightest yellow you would ever see. It hurt your eyes to be in there.
did they paint,
I thought of him when I didn't ask it. I thought of him, it made me think of him though.
but did she paint out all that Dutch Pennsylvania,
I
the
don't think
scroll
so.
work
I
and?
don't know about that. I didn't notice that much about it. I didn't know that I could even see that much. I just know how bright the yellow was.
Oh, yeah,
And you
because
said you liked the bright colors.
Neil had approached me several years ago wanting to know if I had the Pounce patterns or anything, and of course at that point in time nothing. And that he wanted to have somebody come in and redo his mother's kitchen
Oh.
as a gift to her,
Oh,
you know,
nice.
because he said it was kind of fading and, you know, it'd been there for years and years and decades. But,
Well, I'll have to look more closely the next time.
yeah, it was a Pennsylvania Dutch kind of design.
Right.
And as I remember, it was on the top of, you know,
No,
where the cat
would be. I used to, I
Yeah.
was thinking the other day about how bright that yellow was, and you mentioned that you love the bright colors.
Mhm. Yeah, he said, just don't be scared of color, you know, it's fun. So, anyway, well, thank you so much for dinner and inviting me and being such a good audience. I enjoyed it.